bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50-plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go!
EAGLES, Eagles.
And a good Thursday, football fans, specifically you Bird boys. Thanks for streaming in here on Birds 365 with Mac and Mac. J-Mac, when I went to bed last night, I thought, all right, we'll be continuing to analyze why the Reed Blankenship extension was a good thing. Still debate the Hassan Reddick for a less expensive price. But it doesn't look as bad after what Buffalo got for Stephon Diggs. Just the amount that you're getting in return for a player in trade in the National Football League is just blatantly decreased. That cuts Howie a little bit more slack on what I think is still a misadvised trade. No real new Eagle news, so I wasn't sure we were going to talk about. Then I saw the story about the college football revamping into the NFL's little brother, that they're going to put together a super league and do away with the NCAA and change college football drastically and make it look like European soccer with relegation. If you're not good enough, you can drop from the top league.
But I love that part. I've always loved relegation. I love that thought of relegation. I've always thought I advocate that for every league because I think it just, we always talk about tanking in the NBA, and I'm like, if you relegate somebody, maybe they try and maybe you can, you're not always going to do it. It's not perfect. But if you've seen some of these documentaries on these European soccer teams, EPL teams, some of them are really good on Netflix. Sunderland, till I die, they're a team that gets relegated. The people are so passionate. It's like winning a championship if you get back up to the real league. It's not great, but I do think it fuels a little bit. I've always loved the idea of relegation, but you said something interesting to me. Little brother of the NFL. They already are. They always have. I mean, that's what it is. So I don't think that changes that much. You're just changing the framework of what college football looks like. And look, there are some passionate college football fans. I'm sure as a national guy, over the years, that there are people who love, and to me, college football is about the environment and the tradition and, Saturdays and the SEC and these giant stadiums and it's an event. It's the one advantage college has over pro, both basketball and football, is that environment, is the crazies. The fan base, the what they do, the whiteouts at Penn State more locally, 100,000 people, the whole basically, I always crack up when Nebraska becomes the whatever it is, the second or third largest city in the state on game day when they were good. There's always. And everybody loves to get on the soapbox and say, you're making money off these kids and this and that. And I get it. I'm with you. But you got to understand there's always unintended consequences. And now you've seen it. So now it's all right. If you think that's fair, say goodbye to the other stuff because now it's professional football just at a lower level.
Right.
That's what it is.
You're right that college football has sort of been the NFL's younger brother. It's like the Christmas picture, and they put the older brother and the younger brother in the same exact outfit, matching outfits. They used to wear whatever they wanted to. Of course, there was a tie between the two, but now with the fact that there's a good chance that they're going to unionize college football players, that ties it more directly to the National Football League, and the fact that they're going to have a much more regimented playoff system and wild cards. Ain't no wild cards in college football. There's going to be wild cards going
There is
forward.
now. Yeah.
No, that is a direct tie. They're working with college football is in bed with the NFL for advisement on how to best set this up. So this is a much more direct tie. There's always been a tie because where did the NFL get their players from? College football. So there was a tie. Now it's a much more direct tie, and they're not even trying to hide certain connections. It will change the way college football is played, and probably make it easier for the National Football League to scout it and the relationships and the like. So this is going to end up being beneficial to the NFL. That's what we care about here on Birds 365. We're an NFL show. So this will be make it easier for the NFL with access, with relationships. So it's a good thing if you're looking at it purely.
Maybe they even force them to develop players like they like. Maybe even that comes into fruition.
I would not use the word force, but a relationship where they can have conversations, influence, and maybe talk them into certain things. You could be right about that, John. There could be a more direct building up of.
You can use the nice word of influence. I like your nice word of influence. I'll go with force. If they have the opportunity, they'll take it.
Yeah, I think college football, there's a line that college football will go to being the younger brother, and then they're going to want to have to put a stamp on their own. I don't think they'll, yes, sir, no, sir, whatever you want us to run, sir. I don't think they'll buy into force. I think they're a strong enough entity unto themselves. We're talking about billion dollar TV contracts, so they don't need to be forced by the NFL into anything. They could do just fine, but they can take advisement from the NFL, and that is
But you say that, and you're right now. But here's my concern, and the only concern from college football standpoint: if people catch on, and it becomes what it is, a feeder system, which it already is, but it's dressed up in a different way, and people don't think of it like that. At least a lot of hardcore college football fans. It's what it is. I mean, guys don't go to Alabama for the degree. Many of them get a degree, and that's good, and I applaud that. But they're majoring in football to go to the NFL. Sure. That's what they're doing. So, if you strip that down, the more you strip that down, the more it becomes, well, this is professional football. But it's a lower grade of professional football. And, as we've seen with 157, I think we're on spring leagues now, when people realize, oh, this is minor league, it becomes less important. Right now, college football is not looked at as minor league football.
And it should not be. John, you just made the case yourself. The passion, the filling up of 100,000 seat stadiums on Saturdays. What was the attendance for the Birmingham Stallions this week?
Oh, yeah. Well, but that's under the old environment. And I'm saying it's not going to happen overnight, but that's under the old college football setup. Again, it's dressed up better. It is a feeder system. It is essentially it's AAA baseball. It's a feeder system for the major leagues. But it's dressed up as something completely different. It's not dressed up as a feeder system. So no one looks at college football as what it is. And we're doing all the draft prep this week. What is it? It's a feeder system.
Well, no, it is, but you're making it sound like that's their main goal. That's the thing that they do that's most important. That's what they're hanging their own hat on. No, they're not. They're hanging their own hat on the fact that their own individual sport that does billion-dollar TV contracts and numbers for playoff games and regular season and the like, that just lays all over any minor league feeding system you've got. The G League, AAA
No,
baseball. None of those
you're
things either count.
misunderstanding the comp. The comp
Okay.
isn't the level. The comp isn't the level because they've done it differently. You're talking about it right now. I get it. Right now, there's no comparison.
Do you
I'm
think it's going
saying
to
when
be less
you
when they go down this road? That it's going to become less of a standalone event?
I'm saying it's not going to happen overnight because you have all this history and tradition and Alabama and Oklahoma and Notre Dame and Penn State and all this tremendous stuff in the bank. So it's not the Birmingham Stallions or the G League or the Delaware, whatever they call the Sixers G League team now. This is Alabama football. This is Georgia football. And it's been that way. But the minute you turn it into something else, there's going to be a slow decline. I believe that. And more people are going to start to wake up and say, this isn't what it was. This is professional football. This is professional football dressed up in a different way. And they're still going to advocate. They're trying to educate. What is the NCAA's point in this?
Oh, the NCAA is going to become a dinosaur.
I mean,
it's going by the boards.
I mean, we talk about it, and that's where I bring up the original point where you have all these people on their soapbox. You're taking advantage of these kids. You're using their licensing, and you're not giving them any money, and you're not doing this, and you're not doing that, and that's fine. But then let them turn professional. So they're trying to service two masters. You can let them turn professional, and then they can make all the money they can potentially make under the system in which they go to be a professional, like everybody else. You don't have to go to college if you're a regular person. You can go out and go earn a living. They should be able to do that too. I'm all for it. Why you're saying, oh, let's try to mask it and say, we're going to pay these kids like professionals and say it's not professional football. I don't think when people see the changes, they're going to buy that anymore. So it's going to be a slow roll. I'm not saying it's going to change overnight, but it's already started to change. We've had the argument, Jody. I told you earlier in the offseason, there are a bunch of coaches looking to bail from college football. And that wasn't just me speculating. That's what I've heard. And sure enough, people don't want to be around it because they don't get to coach football. They're recruiting and they're trying to get out and they're trying to look for the life wrap and the transfer portal and the NIL stuff. And they got to recruit constantly year after year. You got to recruit a kid 4 times if you want him to stay 4 years. They just move around, they go around, and everybody loves it. And at least the soapbox people and say, well, they're getting their money, they deserve it. Fine, but just understand the unintended consequences to that. And it's not the same thing that people fell in love with.
It'll be changed, but I just have a problem with you're calling it a minor league system. It's not going to be. It's going to be standalone. It'll be different because they're going to have to acknowledge the players are professionals now. They may be going to college classes, but they are going to be professionals because they're going to be unionized. It's going to be more similar to the setup in the NFL. But I don't think it's going to lose any of its gravitas. But the rivalries are still going to be the same. They're not going away anywhere. They're just going to be transformed a little bit. And I don't think anybody will be checking it out less or doing less numbers. It'll become less viable as a television product. It's going to be as good as it's ever been.
Well, I think like I said, I think it's going to be a slow erosion, but I think the erosion.
What are we talking about? 50 years?
Well, no, it could ramp up quickly depending on how many people. Like you said, it's going to be professional. So we agree on that. So if you take off the Alabama branding or the Notre Dame branding and you have one group of players who are better than the other group of players, that's a minor league.
But they'll still call it Alabama. There's still going to be students who are.
Well,
in
what
Alabama.
I'm saying is,
that's not going to be wiped from the planet. It's still going to be the same setup.
Yeah, the Alabama
names with the same rivalries.
The Alabama branding is better than the Birmingham Stallions branding, stipulated. But the Alabama branding to this point was not professional football. To this point, it was not professional football. It was college football. It was student athletes. And people can roll their eyes and say what I just said. It's not really. That's fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, if it changes and it becomes branded as professional football, it's a lower level of professional football. And that, by definition, is a minor league.
Right. And here's where I think you'll be proven wrong. They're not going to brand it as professional football. You and I might brand it as professional. You will not get them to call it professional. It'll still be college football. They'll call it college football. They'll be associated with universities. They're not going to say, we're the NFL light. There'll be similarities, and some people may look at it that way. But if it is light, it's going to be the best light beer on the planet because they're getting $1 billion for their TV deals, and the XFL is on Saturdays at noon on Fox 2. Yeah, that's not college football, but college football is on ABC primetime. They're not going to give that up.
I'm talking about the system down the road, not the system now, the system down the road. And again, there's too much goodwill brought up, and it's not going to be a dramatic decline. But the more people catch on that it's not college football, it's professional football, I think hurts college football.
No, I think they'll do a very good job of balancing the two, of continuing to brand it as college football, but we'll have a lot more NFL or professional football is the word I should use, professional ties to it. And it will look more. And the players will benefit from it more, which is good for the players. But I don't think they'll lose any of their cachet. And I think they will continue to brand themselves as college football. And it will have an effect on the NFL going forward. All right, we're going to take a quickie timeout. We got our buddy Brian Cameron. Haven't had him on for a while. He does a great job covering the Birds for PhillySportsNetwork.com. He's going to jump in with us. We've got plenty of Eagles stuff to get into. I want to get his take on this new resurfacing, rebranding, if Johnny Mack likes that word, it's a good one, of college football going forward, what kind of effect it's going to have on the NFL. We got a lot to talk about here on a Thursday edition of Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today, and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
The Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We got Brian Cameron on with us from Philly Sports Network. Where'd you get that cool setup? Where are you at right now?
I can't tell you where I'm at. I'm at an undisclosed location at the
moment. Super secret location. I love it.
That looks like a green screen depiction of one of the Eagles' offices.
Yeah, I downloaded it from Google at one point, and it just stuck ever since.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Stuff.
I've never seen that.
I do that on Zoom. I got a Lincoln Financial Field on Zoom.
There we go.
Yeah.
It looks like you're ready for a high-level meeting on discussing the Eagles' upcoming draft 20 days from now, which we're going to ask you about in a second. But I want to start here, Brian, because we've been debating it since it went down last Friday, the Hassan Reddick trade. Howie Roseman is trying to thread a very thin needle by not only making the Eagles better in 2024, because guess what? 2023 wasn't good enough, but also with an eye on the future and making sure the Eagles stay competitive in 25, 26, 27. He's really trying to thread that needle with the Hassan Reddick trade. You going to pull it off? Is he going to be able to do what he wants to do, a little bit of both? Or has he overstepped his boundaries by subtracting a key piece from the 2024 Eagles?
It's a very, very risky move, in my opinion. One that could be very rewarding because you give more playing time to Nolan Smith. Bryce Huff becomes your immediate starter, right? But it's risky because Bryce Huff was in a part-time role with the Jets. Nolan Smith, we haven't really seen much of because that injury, I feel like, kind of limited him last year. Josh Sweat, we know who he is, but he played a surplus amount of snaps last season, which really, took a toll on his body. It's risky unless you have a huge backup plan that we're all kind of expecting in the draft. It's a very risky move. Hassan Reddick was very productive in his time with Philly. Key piece as to why we went to the Super Bowl. This season, you have to have guys step up, and like I said, it's a very risky move because it's a new defensive scheme. We don't know what Vic Fangio really truly wants to do with the defensive line. We don't know, with the rumors out there, whether he wants, Hassan was unhappy with his role, whatever the case may be. It's a very risky move. It's hard to say that the Eagles are true contenders without a fierce defensive line, and I feel like Hassan Reddick was the best defender that they had.
It's interesting because Mike Sando, buddy of mine who works for The Athletic, covered the Seahawks for a long time, very plugged in, does these, talking to executive stories each year. And he did his off-season one yesterday, I believe. And here was the quote he got about the Eagles from an executive from outside Philadelphia. And I want to read it to you guys. I just don't know who they are. I think they lost their identity and lost their confidence. Teams say they want to build from the inside out, but you lost your two stable inside players in Kelsey and Cox. Not only that, but those two guys were the culture guys. You lose those guys in a year when the head coach already has his back against the wall. I don't see it ending well. So I took that quote and I texted an executive I talked to, and this is what he gave me back. I understand that sentiment. They are shipping out Reddick and bringing in Barkley. That's not business as usual for the Eagles. No matter how you spin it, it seems reactionary. And I said, for the first time in a very long time, people in the NFL are looking at the Eagles and saying, what's going on? You usually set your watch by this organization. Now, people outside that conference room of yours, Brian, are starting to go, what the heck are the Eagles doing? You think that's fair or unfair?
I think that's very fair, honestly, because as much of as a fan I am of the Barkley move, I feel like that was, to me, a good offensive move, right? It was very unorthodox. It brought the PTSD of the DeMarco Murray, Sam Bradford days where we don't know what the hell was going on. It's a very fair outlook on it, but if we if we've learned anything from Philadelphia over the past decade or so, if we learned anything from Howie ever since he stepped out of the closet from the Chip Kelly days, they're always forward thinking. They're thinking ahead of the times. They're trying to be ahead of everything that's coming towards the NFL. And I feel like the Barkley move possibly was one of those moves. I feel like, no matter what, Reddick wasn't going to stay here. If Reddick didn't want to budge for below $20 million a year and the Eagles didn't want to pay him for over $20 million a year, I get it. It's a business at the end of the day. But maybe they're ahead of the curve with the thinking of Bryce Huff and the thinking of Nolan Smith. They've always had a good defensive line when they have great rotational pieces, in my opinion. And I feel like that's why I feel like coming into the draft, like there has to be a trick up Howie's sleeve at the moment that nobody's aware of. It's very unorthodox how they approach the offseason, but I still feel like they're doing it in a way where they're ahead of the game as opposed to behind everybody else.
No, we'll see over time. And I would have defended the Eagles up until the Reddick move. I liked the Barkley move. The Huff move was surprising to me, and it became a domino effect with the fact that affected Reddick. So, and I think less of the Huff move, or there's more pressure on Huff to be as good as the Eagles think he's going to be, and we'll see if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
The CJGJ move, I like the fact that they were willing to roll the dice and bring a high-maintenance player back. They needed talent, and the talent, I think, will come with CJGJ. So I would have defended them, even if the rest of the NFL looks at them as going outside their usual modus operandi. That's okay. If you see need for a change, make a change.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get the moves right. You got to get the evaluation right. I'm not sure they did with the Reddick trade. It'll tell over time. We haven't had you on since CJGJ re-signed. I sing the praises of the Eagles on that one for getting the talent back in the lineup that they needed. The mistake was probably letting CJGJ walk out the door rather than bringing him back at this time. Are the Eagles good to go at safety? CJGJ at one, the extended Lance Blankenship at the other. Is that good enough at the safety position for the Birds starting the season?
No. I believe bringing CJ back was a hell of a move. Standing ovation for that move because you brought swagger back into the secondary and you brought back a little bit of smash mouth football, which the Eagles were missing. They were missing the pride in that defense last season. But it's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not the final piece of the puzzle. I feel like they need a veteran back there. You have Sidney Brown, who tore his ACL last season. We don't know when he's coming back this season. Reed Blankenship, has his moments where he's healthy, has his moments where he's very unhealthy. But I feel like with CJ being back, you have a Swiss Army knife that you're going to probably see a lot in nickel. You're going to see him move around a lot all over the field. So bringing in a veteran that can actually be stabilizing behind him or be in a rotational piece, I think is key. Bringing in a guy who, Eagles fans have been flirting with for the longest, Justin Simmons, makes all the sense in the world to me. Does it happen? Not too sure, but I feel like there's still that secondary is still very much as big of a question mark as a defensive line at the moment.
Do you think that's thanks for letting me jump in, John. Do you think the fact that Justin Simmons isn't an Eagle yet is price related? That Simmons is still clinging to a price that the Eagles won't match? You just told us you think that's why Hassan Reddick is gone. He wanted a price. The Eagles weren't getting there. Hassan, sorry, we got to trade you. Do you think that's why Simmons isn't an Eagle yet? Because his asking price is still too high for their liking.
I'm curious about that because on one side, you think it's the price point. On the other side, you question if the relationship with Vic Fangio and him was actually as good as we hope it was. I think there's been rumors out there from a lot of Broncos people that said that, Fangio and Simmons just weren't a great match together. So it could be either or. If it's a price point, this is a guy that you could probably get after the draft. Not a guarantee if he doesn't sign beforehand. But it's a hell of a move in my opinion if you get a guy like that because he's versatile. He's a veteran at that. The Eagles made a hell of a move in signing a veteran in Rodney McLeod a couple of years ago, and that worked out for them very well. This could be the same type of situation, especially with somebody you're bringing in to kind of groom a Sidney Brown who we know has all the talent in the world.
We've heard that quite a lot, Brian, when you hear about players in Vic. Is there any concern? Like, I don't think anybody is going to debate whether Vic Fangio can coach defense or teach defense, but we keep hearing about players who don't necessarily like the style. And sometimes there's just a generational clash. And, Vic's an old school guy and it's a new environment. And any concern in that, the fact that I forget who we had on, Jody. You might remember they were talking about Jalen Ramsey and how successful he was when he was healthy with Vic Fangio last year, but he couldn't stand him. And you're bringing up Justin Simmons, and people say how successful he was with Vic Fangio, but maybe he can't stand him. Is that a concern at all?
I would be concerned if this was an older group. This is a very young group, I feel like, on the defense, and I feel like they kind of need this little bit of a old school approach. I mean, I come from the days where, you know, you get coached hard, you produce better at the end of the day. That's how I feel about it. You know, you get paid to do this, you get paid to listen to your coaches, do what you got to do, and just get better at it. But I feel like, you know, with a Jalen Carter, with a Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, even a Bryce Huff, like, you have guys who are young enough to, you can still mold. Even Devin White, I feel like, as well. Like, you can mold these guys into being better versions of themselves with hard coaching. I mean, their quarterback, I think, is going to be, you know, a huge example of this, who loves to be coached hard. And him leading by example, I feel like, you know, would kind of make it easier for players to buy into the Vic Fangio stuff.
And the reason why I'm not going to just accept, Fangio's old and the young guys can't relate. Steve Spagnuolo's a year younger than Vic Fangio. And look at what he's done with the Kansas City Chiefs the last couple of years. Completely turned that defense over and basically got him a second Super Bowl title. This one not being won directly by Patrick Mahomes, being won more by the Chiefs defense. So if Spags can coach up all these young corners that they drafted,
well, it's not it's not just age. You know, Spags has a different personality than Vic. I mean, it's not just age. I said sometimes there's a generational disconnect. You know, Andy Reid is, you know, he's done a great job staying ahead of the times as an innovator. It's not a death sentence that as you get older, you can't evolve and connect with younger people. But sometimes it is a problem for some people. And I'm saying, as these stories continue to pop up, was there any concern? Because it can work the other way as well. It's not a death sentence, but unless you know, we keep hearing these things in Miami and Denver, and I don't know. It's got to.
I don't know, man. Hey, winning cures everything at the end of the day. I mean,
well, that's true too.
If they're winning, I feel like, you know, these young guys will really buy into it and kind of bring the youth out of Vic Fangio, if anything.
The most outspoken guy who's been anti-Fangio is Jalen Ramsey, and guess what? He's got problems with everybody. He's one of those high-maintenance guys. So I'm not going to hang that on. He couldn't get along with the Jalen Fangio.
Jalen Ramsey is, you know, even though he was so successful last year when he was healthy, you know, he wants to play press. That's what he is. That's what great corners. He's the best corner of his generation. He wants to play press, and you know. Yeah, Fletcher Cox in the shift from Jim Schwartz to Jonathan Gannon did not like it. Did not like it a little bit. Going from that scheme, Jim's scheme, to the current scheme, which is Vic's obviously fueled scheme. But, you know, Fletcher and winning helps, as Brian points out. They started to win games, and it was like, all right, you know, it's working. I can't be a you-know-what, but some guys are going to be a you-know-what if they can't play what they want to play. Just something to throw out there.
Yeah, I'm not scared, at least not the start of the season. I want to see it with my own two eyes that it's a problem, and have guys rightfully on the record going, what the hell are we doing here? I still think it was a very good hire. We'll find out over time. All right. Do want to get your take on the Eagles draft, because we're getting that much closer. We're now 3 weeks away. Zander had a good piece up on NBC Sports Philly looking at the 13 number one draft picks that Howie has had in his tenure as general manager, sans the Chip Kelly year, and the breakdown of each particular position. And it screams, we go to the trenches. When in doubt, we go to the trenches. Defensive end, defensive tackle, offensive line. He varies from that very infrequently, including the last 3 number one draft picks on the defensive line the Eagles have used. I'm a cornerback guy. They have taken exactly 0 cornerbacks in the first round during Howie Roseman's tenure of the draft, first round of the draft. But I see it as a position of need, and I see it as a position of strength in this particular draft. Is Howie going to go away from his usual modus operandi and take a cornerback in the first round, Brian?
I want to say yes, but I'm getting ripped on Twitter right now for my mock draft of taking Nate Wiggins. So
good for you. I'm with you. I didn't rip you. I can guarantee you that. I'd love to see Nate Wiggins here.
You always get ripped on Twitter, no matter who
always,
you put out there.
no matter what. I mean,
got a good point there, John.
If I grow my hair, they'll rip me for that as well.
No.
It's weird because we talked about this last night on Flipping the Birds. Cornerback is to us is a position of need, right? Because you have aging guys like Darius Slay and James Bradbury, and you have the Bradbury contract. But they also did pick up Isaiah Rodgers last offseason, who hasn't been reinstated yet, but the expectation is that he will. You do have Keely Ringo. You have a guy like Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe. They have a lot of young talent. So it's kind of one of those things like, if you do draft a corner, like where are you moving Bradbury and who's taking on that contract? I'm all for them drafting a corner because I feel like this is a very talented class. I love Wiggins. I love Mitchell. I love Arnold as well. But if we're following Howie's trend, then ideally we're thinking about the trenches. You're thinking about, there's going to be a run on offensive linemen within the first I would say 15 picks or so. If the Eagles trade up, then it's most likely for one of those guys. But if you think about defensive end, you have guys that could fall to you at 22. You have Latu. You have Chad Robinson, who I feel like is raw, but is a freak of nature. It would be, a great replacement in the future for Hassan Reddick. It's just one of those things where it's like, it feels like it's going to be one of those drafts where we get a little disappointed in the first round, but it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense to what we want. If they do stick to the tendency, I think they go offensive line. I'm hoping that they go cornerback or defensive end. I would, like I said, I would love Chad Robinson. I would love Nate Wiggins. I think it makes sense to finally get a shutdown corner in Philadelphia when instead of buying somebody else's shutdown corner that's aged past 29 years old. It's about time we start getting homegrown guys at cornerback. You get a guy that could link up with Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks in the future, and you're set. You also save money as well.
Yeah, we had Matt Manicherian on yesterday, former NFL scout, and what was the number he gave us, Jody? 10, I believe. He would not be surprised.
An outside shot, 10 offensive linemen.
10 offensive linemen are worthy to go in the first round.
No, that's not what he said. He said he thinks 10 can go.
10 may go.
Worthy and
worthy,
accurate pick are two different things.
He thinks 10 may go. But the point is, if he thinks 10 may go, it's pretty deep at the top of the draft when it comes to the offensive line. And he kind of mentioned that's what the Eagles do. So when that's what you do, and it's that deep at the top of the draft, if you're a betting man, yeah, I'm going to go. Odds are you're going to get value, and evaluation is going to match up with offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the outlier, and you bring up Dave's piece when you look at former first-round picks, and I get it, but I say so many times, the Eagles wanted to draft J.C. Horn. They wanted to draft Patrick Surtain. They didn't get to him. They didn't get him. They didn't, they wanted to draft Christian McCaffrey. You didn't get to them. So there's two positions where we went, well, they haven't taken a quarterback since, what is it, Lido? They haven't taken a corner since, they haven't taken a running back since, they haven't taken an off-ball linebacker, which they won't take an off-ball. That one we can still stand on. But in the past, they've wanted to take corners. They've wanted even to take a running back. But there's other teams involved. So if you want, the Eagles may want Quinyon Mitchell. That's the guy I focused on. If there's going to be a targeted trade up for Howie Roseman, as he's done recently, many years, he did it with Devontae, he did it with Jordan Davis, he did it with Jalen Carter, but very small moves up. And if he starts to fall a little bit, I could see them trying to go get him. But if they have to stay at 22, yeah, if I'm playing the odds, got to be offensive line. Almost has to be, just because of the depth of this particular draft.
Yeah,
doesn't
and you
mean
need
they
somebody
don't want something else, though. Yeah,
you're gonna need somebody for the future to replace Lane Johnson. I feel like that's what that seems to be the recipe for this draft somehow, some way.
Yeah. And all the top 30 visits, so many offensive linemen.
Yeah.
They're doing a nice I'll tell you what.
Of those top 30 visits that they have offensive linemen, how many are actually potentially going to be taken in the first round?
Well, they brought Guyton in.
Did they bring Rosengarten in?
I do not
He's
believe
not a
so.
first round
Not,
pick.
No, but he'll be like a second round if I'm not mistaken.
No, they brought in a bunch of interior guys, and they wouldn't be first rounders.
Which is telling me that they're looking at it as the possibility of we'll be taking offensive linemen, just not in the first round.
Well, they're definitely taking an offensive lineman in those first 3 picks. I'm 100%. I'd like to go 99.9. I'm 100% that one of those first 3 picks is offensive line. Yeah, it could get pushed down because it could work both ways. Matt also brought that up. It's so deep, maybe you feel comfortable waiting a little bit. And if you do want a cornerback, you got to act right away because there's not as many.
That's the way I've been looking at it all year, Johnny Mac.
But my thing is, I think there's a big drop off, and other people disagree. I think there's a big drop off after Arnold and the kid from Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell. I think there's a big drop off, and I'm not comfortable with any of the other guys at 22. If you trade down McKinstry, I would, but he's hurt. So I'm not comfortable. And if you move down to the bottom of the first round, you get something else. I could see that. Then I'll take those guys.
How do you feel about Wiggins?
Brian's got the guy. Wiggins is certainly worthy of the 22nd pick in the draft.
Yeah,
he's the closest thing in this draft to Sauce Gardner. Size, build, traits.
You're higher on him than me. And a lot of Eagles fans seem to be settling in on Cooper DeJean. My problem with him is a lot of people think he's a safety. And the Eagles need a pure outside corner.
Exactly.
But a pure outside zone corner. If they're going to stick with the Fangio theme, if Fangio's going to be here for 4 or 5 years, then they don't need the man-to-man coverage guy. They need a guy who can.
And that's why. And I'm probably the only one in Philadelphia guy who has no problem with James Bradbury coming back. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I don't even want him to take a corner because that's how much I think. And I'm the only one. I know I'm on an island.
You definitely are the only one.
I guarantee he has a bounce back year, and you're never going to see it because if they draft a corner, they're going to cut him post June 1st. If they're forced to keep him and they're keeping him as a safety net, I think you're going to see, even with Mitchell, who's the player I like. It seems like Jody likes Wiggins. You like Wiggins. I don't know if you like him better than Mitchell, but I think Mitchell's the best corner. Even if they get Mitchell, you're going to have growing pains. You're going to young corner. Bradbury's going to be good in this defense, and I want to see it. And I'm not. I probably am not going to see it. And
do you feel like? And just a quick question for you guys: do you feel like Bradbury's fall off last season was due to the inconsistent play of the safeties?
I think they moved him around like morons. I think they're playing him in the slot.
Much more about coaching than anything else.
Yeah,
it was the inefficiency of first.
I remember the first day was in the slot. I came on with Jody, and I'm like, "What the hell are they doing? what?"
Here's one where I'll give Sean Desai credit. He kind of knew that he had a fragile, do not be careful, glass jaw interior corner. And he said, we better have a safety net here. So they tried a little bit of everything. What they found out was trying isn't good enough. You have to have someone who can actually play there. And all the trying went right by the boards and only helped the defense.
That's my whole point.
Later.
Vic is going to put him on the right side and play him in as a zone corner. And he's going to have a great year if it comes to pass. And that's why I sort of want him to stay away from corner. But, they don't think about it that way. I'm not trying.
No,
Oh, I think they're absolutely thinking about it that way. And I'll tell both of you guys here, right here, right now. You know who's going to decide whether James Bradbury is on the Eagles or not? James Bradbury. They will do to James Bradbury exactly what the Giants did. On a given date, probably sometime after the draft when they take Wiggins in the first round, as Brian and I will be clapping on that selection.
If they take Wiggins, he's getting cut. There's no.
Oh, not immediately. He'll be called into the office and told, listen, we'd like to keep you. We'd like to give you the chance to compete. We think you fit in the Fangio defense. But here's what we need you to do with your contract. And he's got to renegotiate down and take less money and let Howie move the money around any way he wants with future years in the contract or whatever else, under the threat of, if not, we're going to release you. And then do you want to go out on the open market on June 1st when all the teams have spent all their money and had their draft picks and going to play with their youth and try and find yourself a job? We still think our offer.
If they draft a corner in the first round, he's out. There's no negotiation. There's no nothing. They already have Ringo and Ricks as young players. They're well stocked with developmental players. That's not the problem. They need a starter. And if they draft a kid at 22, or they go up to draft a kid like Mitchell, that person is penciled in as a starter, and he's out the door. And I don't want to see that. I'm the only one, I admit. I'm on an island, but I think Bradbury's going to have a bounce back year if they let him have a bounce back year. And I don't, if you ask me, I don't think they're going to let him have a bounce back year. So, but we'll see how it shakes out.
And you and I see it the same, except for the timing. And I absolutely believe Howie. If we've learned nothing this year, we've learned that it's kind of hard line Howie. And he did what he did with Hassan Reddick. And finances certainly played a part in that decision. I think finance will play a part in the Bradbury decision. You want to come back and play under our figure, then we'll bring you back. You want to go out and test the free agent market when we cut you after every team has already filled out their roster? Okay, fine. Good luck. The Giants did the same exact thing. Howie's going to do the same thing to Bradbury that the Giants did. And the Eagles actually benefited from it, lucked into it, because they got a damn good year out of Bradbury to help them get to the Super Bowl.
And I'll go one further. I'm going to get more people pissed off. I think Ringo is every bit the prospect of any of those second-tier corners. And you already got him on the roster.
I 100% agree. And I don't mind doubling up on that. In my opinion, if you get somebody in the first round,
how many more years has Slay got? At some point, you're going to have to replace
Slay. This is it for Slay. That's a legitimate aspect, and it's never a bad thing to carpet bomb a position, so it's not. It doesn't rule it out, but it further indicates that, hey, if you think you're a Super Bowl contender, we've had this debate with Hassan Reddick. If you're all in. You don't want the young players. Nick Sirianni don't want young players on the field. We know that. You're going to be forced to throw out a young corner. I don't know.
But do you want a young corner? Or you want the 2023 version of James Bradbury back? And we don't know which one we're getting, 2022 or 2023. You hope that it's 2022 because Fangio will use him better, but you don't know that.
Well, I'm very confident. Yes, all football is about evaluation. I'm very confident Big Fangio will use him correctly and he will have a bounce-back season if given the opportunity. His game was never predicated on speed to begin with. So everybody's saying he lost the step, this and that. He never had the step. He's a zone corner. I think I'm very confident, but they're going to try to get a younger corner. He's here as a safety net.
All right. All that being said, who's going to be playing the slot corner for the Eagles this year? We all keep throwing Isaiah Rodgers' name out there. I keep looking at the Eagle roster. He's still not there. He's on the suspended list. We're all assuming he's going to get reinstated at some point. At what point do we go, wait a minute, why isn't he back on the roster yet? Is it a given? He's their slot corner going into training camp, their starting guy.
From what I've read, it seems like Rodgers is actually a better outside corner. He's played in the slot, but at a very a minimum so far from what I understand. But I think the slot corner is actually going to belong. Again, it all depends on how the rest of the offseason goes. But I strongly feel like C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to be the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, you've gone there. I've suggested that, and John keeps reminding me that he said at his introductory press conference, "I'm a safety," and that the Eagles will keep him at that position.
Yeah,
I think they'll get creative with him.
They might. I don't think they'll do it consistently.
Correct.
At least, he doesn't mind doing it. He already did it out of necessity. If somebody gets hurt, whether it's Tyler Hall or they signed him from Las Vegas or somebody they bring in, Matt also said it's a very deep draft when it comes to slot corners later. So they may bring in somebody else. You bring up, you're right, Brian, in that Isaiah Rodgers played mainly outside in Indianapolis, but that's because they had Kenny Moore. I think people forget that part of the equation. And Kenny Moore is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL. So from a physical standpoint, he looks like a slot corner. The Eagles may move him there. They may play him outside. We'll have to wait and see when he gets back and he's reinstated. But I do think people are closing the book too much on him in the slot because he didn't play the slot in Indianapolis, not realizing, well, they had a pretty good slot corner and they wanted him on the field and
they made it happen.
You got to go play outside. So they have options. And I think CJ would do it as he did it before out of necessity, but I don't think if you go into with a plan, oh, you're going to play slot on third downs, I don't think he'd be happy with that. But we'll see.
Yeah. I think they'll get creative with him, especially if they get another safety. But again, like you mentioned, like they could also get creative with their developmental guys, like who's played the slot last season. Were they terrific? Not in the sense, but hey, like a year under your belt, you learn a lot. But I feel like Fangio is gonna have his pickings, for a lack of a better term.
All right, let me run this one by you. We brought this up on the show yesterday, the day before. I don't remember which one. Via our pal Mike Tannenbaum, who ran down a mock draft and had the Eagles taking at 22. Brock Bowers, tight end, University.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
There's a couple of reasons why you have to at least consider it. Number one is he's from Georgia, and the Eagles automatically take players from Georgia given the chance. Number two, I think he might be the third or fourth most talented player in the draft, and you're getting him at 22. And number three, let me note this for those of you who are defending Howie Roseman's trade of Josh Reddick. They moved on from Reddick because he's 29, and he may be a declining player. You know who else is 29? Dallas Goedert. And the Eagles drafted Goddard when Zach Ertz was younger than Goddard is now. So if you're going to draft a replacement for a guy, why not draft the best one on the whole lot of the draft and one of the best players? People mock the fact that Tannenbaum mocked.
Well, I mocked him. I mocked him too, but I mocked him because Brock's not going to be there.
You don't think he's going to be at 22? Nor do I. But we're talking hypothetically there here. If he's there at 22 and you're the Eagles, can you possibly pass on him, Brian Cameron?
My thing with tight ends right now in Nick Sirianni's day and age, it just doesn't feel like he values them as he should. So you got the question, like, is Kellen Moore gonna have full say of the offense where he's gonna actually use a guy like Bowers? I don't mind it, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things like, is he the best need available? But me saying best need available doesn't actually correlate with what the Eagles think of best player available. If he's the best player available, then by all means, it's a hell of an offensive weapon you're adding to this offense. But if he's not the best need available, then it's kind of one of those things where you gotta, just bite your tongue and go another year with Dallas Goedert. I mean, I feel like we still haven't really touched on. It's either Goddard's ceiling is not that high, or we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Well, Dallas was one of the part that Jody didn't bring up was injuries, and he's got a style where he's susceptible to injury. He's a very physical player. He won Kyle Brandt's Angry Run twice last year, whatever that award is, and one of them he got hurt on because he runs so angry and he's breaking his forearm on people. So he's susceptible to injury, so that factors in as well. I mean, Brock Bowers is just, the Eagles don't need a tight end. I'm not saying that. Well, they do need a backup tight end, but he's so good. Yeah, if he's a 22, and I love Mike, I'm not ripping him. I'm saying if he falls to 22 and there's that many dumb teams in this league, yeah, I'm going to run up and take him. But
Brock Bowers would play if the Eagles took Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers would play more than the backup break glass selection of a right tackle in the draft in the first round, if that's the direction.
Yeah, and by the way,
he's just going to sit there and learn from Lane Johnson. So why can't you have Brock Bowers as a part-time tight end?
And by the way, Kellen Moore, if you're such a great offensive coordinator, sit Paris Campbell down, screw 11 personnel, and play 12 with Dallas and Brock. Bing.
That's been the Philadelphia dream for the longest.
Yeah.
12 personnel is what we strive for over here.
Yeah.
That's true. Getting both of them out there blocking for Saquon Barkley will make Eagle fans very happy. All right, Brian, what can we look for coming up on Philly Sports Network from you leading up to the draft?
So we're getting a lot of mock drafts out. I know my first one wasn't to the liking of a lot of people.
You got yelled at, Andrew.
I got yelled at.
No matter what you do, you can do 50 of them. You're gonna get yelled at every time.
I got yelled at by coworkers and Twitter members alike. But yeah, I mean, we're working on a mock drafts. We'll have our regular PSN draft event as well, which is a 3-day event where a lot of us host the show from Thursday all the way to the end of the draft. You can actually catch us as well on Flipping the Birds every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. where we're actually going through each position for prospects, the best prospects that are available for the Eagles. And yeah, I mean, just definitely tune into PSN. We have a lot of good things coming in down the pipeline.
Stick to your Wiggins guns. You got a chance to be right on that one, big guy.
It feels like Devontae Smith all over again. And people are saying he's too lean, he's too small, but it could work.
Yeah, those
spindly legs.
Spindly legs, just fine working for Devontae Smith. Exactly right. Brian, good stuff, brother. We'll get you back on in a couple weeks after the draft. Do a little draft review with us. Thanks for jumping in today.
Sounds great. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Catch him on PhillySportsNetwork.com. Brian Cameron here with us on Birds 365. All right, got a timeout coming. Second hour, Brad Spielberger, who, unbeknownst to me, when I reached out and asked him if he'd come on with us, he didn't. He just said, "Yeah, sure." He didn't mention that he's switching gigs. We got a lot to talk about with Brad Spielberger.
Going to the dark side, depending,
Some people would say dark side. Some people would say the right side. We'll let Brad explain it. Let him explain that when he joins us. Coming up in about 20 minutes here on Birds 365. All right, Eagle fans, how would you like to save some money? I got a plan for you. I'm as good an offensive coordinator as Kellen Moore. I'll help you out. Birds fans, here's your chance to save up to 40% on your car insurance right now for one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call one of the two managing general partners, either Jim or Fran, and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365 with Brad Spielberger. I'm going to say, formerly of, I guess, I'm going to have to wait for him to come on, PFF and over the cap.
Director of Football Administration. He's big time in us.
I'm not believing that till I hear it from his own lips. I know you've gotten this information and you're 99.9% right, I'm sure, but I'm clinging to that 1/10 of 1%. Say it isn't so, Brad, because he's been such a very good guest for us. If he's doing something different, more power to him, and he'll probably be great at whatever he does because he's a bright football guy. But I don't want to lose a good guest. And
he's taking advantage of that law degree. You know, he's a smart guy, so he went to Bandy. I think he went to Bandy and Tulane. I think law schools.
That's
so.
pretty impressive. And I definitely want to get his opinion about the whole super league that college football is going to become. And I'm going to tell you right here, right now, what the biggest debate will be, the biggest first step will be, is if the way that it's being reported is the way that it's going to be laid out. And there will be 8 divisions of 10 teams, with the divisional winners getting automatic spots in the college football playoff, and 8 wild cards, which will be determined by, I guess, a committee that they'll put together, and they'll have a vote of who are the best 8 other teams to get 16 teams into a college football play. Makes a lot of sense the way that it's being laid out, but here's the question I have. How are they going to decide to group the divisions? Are they going to try and evaluate ahead of time and put a value?
Well, that's my issue. I mean, when we were at the start of the show, Jody, when we were debating this, I was talking about the history and tradition of college football. Does it just become, and do they use the terminology? Because I think they should use the terminology of SEC.
Well, time out. The terminology of the Big 10, the Big 12.
Yeah.
2 of the biggies are idiotic. The fact that they call the Big 10 the Big 10.
No, you can call the Big 10. You can call the
idiotic.
You can call the Big 10 the Big 10 now. If it's 10-team division.
Exactly.
It would make sense.
But there are 6
Big 12, yeah.
There are a bunch of teams that go, well, we want to be the Big 10. No, we want to be the Big 10. No, we want to be the Big 10.
Well, that's my
8
point.
Big 10s.
How many people want to be in the SEC? And you're going to take the SEC away, the SEC branding away?
But there can only be one SEC. So
I know.
What's the scramble going to be like to be one of those SEC teams?
It's not as easy as people are. You're losing a lot, is what I'm saying. You're losing a lot when it comes. And even I for many years, I knew conferences and I knew teams in those conferences, and I no longer do. I tapped out. I said, this is absurd.
Right.
And it became less, and I'm just one person, so by no means is this worthy of Scientific America, but it's not a study or anything. But I became less interested because I became less invested, with no Pac-10 or Pac-12 or Big Ten, and Big Ten's got 20 teams, and SEC, Texas A&M's in the SEC, and all that kind of crap. It became less interesting to me. Not everybody, I assume, but on a personal level. The SEC, though, and the Big Ten are the two biggies, I would say.
You know who
You're going to lose that branding?
You know who's going to end up being a big one? I'm and we'll ask the well-educated Mr. Spielberger here, who may or may not know it when he joins us. When the Pac-12 / Pac-10 / Pac-8, the Pac whatever the hell it used to be, and they changed with the ever-changing number of teams in there, their name, when they basically disbanded by everybody going to other conferences except for two, Washington State and Oregon State. And I believe I read a story that said the other leaving teams granted the two remaining teams the rights to the name, basically, Pac. And in this new Super League, I can pretty much guarantee you that one of the divisions is going to be the Pac-10. So do Oregon State and Washington State get the benefit from this because they are the owners of the rights? The other ones kind of abdicated their Pac rights by leaving to go to other conferences.
Well, my bigger concern is they're going to dismiss it all. And I'm saying, and that's why I say, what are you going to call it? The Southern Division, the Northern Division, the Northeast, whatever, Midwest? But how are they going to brand this thing? Because branding is important.
Agreed.
If you drop SEC, if you drop Big Ten, if you drop Pac-10, and to me that's dumb. So we'll see how it shakes out. But then, then you have a bunch of people. Are you going to go with history and say these teams have been in the SEC the longest? So these 10 teams, that's what I would do. Big 10 teams, obviously Michigan, Michigan State, blah, blah, blah. That's how I would do it. I if anything, I would go back to I don't know if you can call it the Big 12, but you have to change some of them because there's not enough. Not enough cachet to those some of those conferences. Let's be honest, there's not the same cachet, but it's not going to be the same, man. You're losing some of the tradition. I don't care what anybody says.
Yes, they will, but they'll be just fine. Going forward, I think it will attract a portion of new fans. I don't think anyone is going to give up. If you're a diehard college football fan and have been for years, you're not going to go, wait, this is the NFL light. I'm not going to pay attention.
Well, you're right there. I'll admit.
They're going to stay as attached as they've ever been.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of fans care about history, a lot of younger fans. So that probably doesn't matter as much to them. Not probably, definitely. So you're right from that aspect. Some are just going to seamlessly, like, who cares? But when I think of college football, that's, I think of college game day and campus and
and by the way, college game day is going to be there every single day, every single Saturday, whatever they call it, whatever the new league, the Super League, whatever the league's name is, whatever they call the conferences. Oh yeah, Herb Street's going to be there every single Saturday.
I would have
guarantee you that.
I would have this argument, basketball wise, with a friend of mine who worked in the newsroom with me back at one of our old stomping grounds. And he would say college basketball is a better product than pro basketball, NBA basketball. And I would say that makes no sense on any level. How many college players go every year to the NBA? The NBA has a much better product than college basketball. Much better players, much better athletes, much better skill. There's no debate on that. There can be no debate on that by definition alone. What you like is the atmosphere and the other stuff, which I get. At times it's great. Duke, the Cameron crazies and all. That's what you fell in love with. Whether you know it or not, that's what you fell in love with. The best players are in the NBA.
They just keep advancing.
Yeah. And very few college players get to advance to the NBA because that's the best of the best. Same thing with the NFL and college football. If the environment is hurt, you lose some of the cachet. Hopefully it's not hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. I think it'll just be rearranged and good for the players because the players are going to get paid here. Not 100% sure this, but I'm pretty damn sure it's going to be unionized. It's going to happen. Dartmouth broke the ceiling, and it's going to be across the board for all college football players. Now, and I think we had somebody on the stream comment, well, they're not going to get paid. Players aren't going to. Oh, yeah, they are. It'll be minimum. It's not going to be, it's going to be a standard unionized wage across the board. And you will make more or less money as per your own NIL, what you can generate by selling your own name, image, and likeness. So not everybody's going to make the same thing. Under their union contract, I think everyone will be making the same. But they're not going to just hide behind, well, your scholarship is what counts. And oh, by the way, all those players will still be getting scholarships because the schools are still going to be involved. It's still going to be Alabama. One of the teams is going to be Alabama. What conference, what division they're in, what they call a league, that's still to be determined. But it's going to be Alabama, and the players need Alabama. This isn't, we're going to start, because if they did away with their ties to universities, yeah, then it would be the UFL.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not going to do that.
Disaster. Yeah. Then it would be a disaster. Yeah, but you're still going to have the NIL, and Brad's going to be a big part of that. So we're going to have Brad on because he's going to be doing NIL stuff. The Caleb Williamses of the world are still going to be taking pay cuts to come to the NFL, at least at the start of their careers. And who knows, we might have, if you really want to go down a wormhole and think of conspiracy theorists, you could say at some point, if the NFL doesn't realize, they could become a competitor and guys will want to stay in college. Because if you're a great college quarterback, Jody, and you have success like a Tim Tebow, and you just don't project well to the NFL, why not stay in college for as long as you can? 57 years, some of these guys, and keep getting paid NIL money and getting paid like an NFL quarterback. Yeah, there's a lot of unintended consequences that are down the road, and nobody sees these things. They never see these things, ever.
You give you a guy like the kid Hartman. You stay in college another year.
He looks like he's 50.
How many years are you going to stretch that out just to make
God bless Sam Hartman, because he is he might go to Hollywood, but he looks like he's 35 years old. And he's been in, how many years has he been in college? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the NFL is quaking in their boots. As a matter of fact, there seems to be almost partnering up with college football here to advise them on how to put this together.
The NFL is not good at looking 2 steps down the road. They have never been good at that. They've never been good when it comes to unintended consequences. They never pick it up with the safety stuff. Perfect example. They never envision the unintended consequences, like Kirby Joseph tearing ACLs left and right because they're trying to protect one aspect of a player and not another aspect of the player. And then they got to come back and say, oh, geez, we got to address this now and this and that. They're not good at it, Jody. Never been good at it. Never will be good at it.
No, it all depends on how you grade that. For me, and this is the way I think most of the owners look at it, how are finances doing? Oh, okay.
Well, that's
we're not going to sweat those unintended consequences when the money just keeps rolling in.
Well, that's
John McMullen may go on Birds 365 and say, we don't get it. We don't understand. They're going to go, cha-ching. Okay,
that's all. Well, that's all they care about, but that's a different conversation. I never criticized their ability to make money. You never heard me criticize that, but they are really bad when it comes to unintended consequences and aspects of what they do to the game and what they do to the sport as a whole.
Right. But their response to your
and part of the
really
reason
bad unintended consequences is we don't care.
Yes.
As long as the money keeps rolling in, we're okay.
That's what I was about to say. Part of the reason they're really bad about it because they don't think about it, because they don't care, because they, no matter what they serve up, I'm not talking about you, Jody, you, the listeners, are going to watch it. And they know that.
So they don't have to sweat the unintended consequences, and they don't. We are going to have an unintended consequence today because we're going to punch up Brad Spielberger. He's going to the other side. I won't call it the dark side, but the other side, moving from analysis and information work to representation. We'll get the big Brad Spielberger relocation fee. Is he going to get NIL money? Does he get money for that? We'll find out.
He's going to be giving out NIL money.
He's going to be trying to help guys get NIL money going forward. Brad Spielberger scheduled to join us next here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. We're always excited when we have our next guest join us, even if I had no idea who the hell I was booking. Because when I reached out 2 days ago to see if Brad Spielberger would join us, I thought we were going to get our PFF guy, our over-the-cap guy, and now we got an agent in our midst. When did all of this come down, Mr. Spielberger?
Yeah, so technically not an agent, just a contract negotiator for a bunch of agents, not certified as of yet. But yeah, it's been going on for a little bit, and excited to finally really get in on the action, be directly involved in player negotiations, help our guys maximize their earnings, and take care of them for the long term. So yeah, just went down this past week. Friday is my last day here at PFF. But I'll still be around and probably still helping out over the cap if I can. So yeah, I'll be around.
All right. Director of Football Administration, big time title, Grand Central Sports Management. So congratulations, Brad. Now, two things before, as you get, are you trying to become an agent? Number one. And if you are, you got to do two things for me. One, when you get power and when you get in there and when people start listening to you because you're such a smart guy, tell them stop lying about contracts. And then we got to stop with the it's filed and they're completely different numbers and we got to explain it to fans. Please stop that for me. I
tell you right now, obviously the agents will probably be the ones more so giving the details and information to the Schefters of the world. And I have made a mandate that we're going to report the actual numbers of our deals. We're not going to hyperinflate things because we are going after smart clients that actually understand the actual nitty gritty and details. That's my job. Explain to them what actually matters, cash flows, all of those things. Don't buy into the stupidity of the reporting. So, yeah, I agree with you there 110%, and I think that my guys do as well. And I think I'll take the test eventually. At the outset, like I don't want to be traveling all over the country and recruiting a ton, and that really is the biggest part in some ways of the job. So maybe eventually we'll get there, but I want to really just hammer down, be prepping for negotiations, be battling for our clients, and focusing very much so on that.
2 words for both you guys: pipe dream. Good luck trying to get the agents to change that. I do not see that happening anytime in the near future. Good on you if you're going to try, my friend. And if anybody can make it happen, it would be you. Yeah, I think you're swimming very much upstream. Good luck with that one. All right, so, and if you can tell us, please do. If you can't, we certainly understand. They pursue you, you pursue them. Sounds like a gig that you really like and look forward to and want to be able to grow in and maybe mold and have it be something that changes over time. But how did it all come about, if you can tell us?
I would just say this, like the industry is creating more and more of these opportunities. There are more shops that realize, I know this might sound crazy to some people, that like they assume the agent's job is this. Like that like if the agent's not directly negotiating deals with front offices, what are they doing? There's infinitely more responsibilities that go on for these guys. They're handling marketing opportunities. Like I said, they're doing the recruiting. They're just continuing to, you have guys that help with player development, watch tape, give feedback. Think of anything that an NFL player does, and the agent is just as involved as the club he's working with, the good ones at least. So there are more shops that are now hiring people that are, lawyers and guys heavily involved in contract projection, preparation, and then negotiation. So all things that I've done, at law school and here at PFF. So, it just came about at a great time. It's people that I really like and have liked for a while. Which is an important part of any job, is working with people you enjoy as humans, which I certainly do here. So it was a great alignment of interest and opportunity.
Now, do you get to pick where you want to go? I saw they have offices in New York, Philly, where we are in Miami, and I'm going to recommend Miami, Brad, if you get to choose.
So it's a remote job, which is also a huge element for me. Look, my wife's a doctor, so I can't just pick and choose where I live. I live where she lives because there's no such thing as a remote doctor job. As far as I'm aware,
there is now. You can get doctor on demand. There is.
Yeah,
you
true.
might want to push that.
Yeah, she's not in telehealth. Yeah. So it's remote. I'm moving to Pittsburgh. That was already determined. She's doing her fellowship there.
Nice.
We just signed a lease in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, actually. So I'll be in Pittsburgh and I'll just be doing some traveling.
Very nice. Well, I want to get you a little bit closer. You keep that on the East Coast. If and when we need you for something, we know you could book you now in the Eastern time zone rather than the Central time. So that's good by us. And we appreciate that. We want to wish you the best. Best of luck. Sounds like a great opportunity and something you're very much looking forward to. So good luck for you there.
Thank you.
Yeah, put all that aside and let's just talk about draft potential and the stuff that we've been talking about with you for years.
Yeah.
How good a draft class is this? We always want to break it down positionally and too much emphasis on equipment. Overall draft class, everyone whose name is going to be called out going all the way till Mr. Irrelevant, and then those will be scooped up as undrafted free agents. Those that have made themselves available for this year's draft, how good an overall class is it?
Yeah, so depth-wise, it's not good. You've heard a lot of people talk about, some GMs even said now, like 6th and 7th round picks this year, they're probably going to be trying to trade them for future picks or do whatever they can. And the big piece of that is we had the fewest underclassmen declare in the history of the NFL draft, or at least modern history, because of COVID, extra years of eligibility and things like that. I think that's the main driver. But in the first 5 rounds, which realistically for most draft classes is what really matters. Obviously, there are diamonds in the rough, but it's a very, very good class. It goes position to position, like you said. Quarterback, receiver, tackle, elite, as good as it gets at those spots. Linebacker, safety, running back. I don't think we get a top 50 pick. Might not happen for any 3 of those positions.
Wow.
So, it just varies position to position. But overall, I'd say it's like a B+, except for, late day 3, it's going to be some dart throws for sure.
Before I get to the draft and a deep dive, get in the weeds there, I want to talk about the trade market, Brad, because Hassan Reddick here, Eagles can't get what they want immediately, so they go to 2025. They can't get it there. They go to 2026. They get close to what they want. Stephon Diggs, even Brian Burns, if you want to rewind. Are you a little surprised veteran proven players aren't generating a little bit more on the trade market?
First, I would say to the Eagles' point, I don't know for a fact this is their thinking, but if I'm them, I actually would have done that on purpose for 2 reasons. A, you're going to be there most likely. Obviously, things can fall apart, but we always talk about how he has the advantage of comfort and security, and how he can weaponize that. But B, Aaron Rodgers might be playing his last season this year. I know he's said multiple, but we'll see how that goes. So let's say he does play his last season. The Jets are going to stink in 2025. And then you're getting a
I brought that up. Great minds think alike, Brad. Yeah. I brought it up.
There you go. So I think I'll tell you right now, I think that is intentional. That is an actual thing you're going to do. And B, also, don't forget, like, let's say next year, it comes to next year, they want to trade for a veteran player or do something, they can use that extra draft pick and send it in a trade or move up in the, so like it's an asset. And I think they don't believe in the time value of draft picks, not only because of their security, but also then other GMs are devaluing those future picks. They all are in theory. And I would just ignore that. I understand if you're a GM that wants to keep their job, that has a mandate to win now, a 2026 pick means nothing to you. But if you're in a secure organization that understands how an NFL team cannot be built in 12 months, you should be using that against teams and getting future draft capital. So that's A. For the overall, for B, I would say no. It's because I think we've had so many recent examples of these trades not really working out. Of course, some have, but a lot haven't. For the older players in particular, right? Everyone's saying yesterday, the Bills got fleeced. The Tennessee Titans traded a 2nd and a 5th for Julio Jones, and he played like 10 games in Tennessee, right? So, like, and he was about a year older than Diggs is now, but still. So, like, I think that they were actually just seeing, I think, a counter to the market based on recent results.
So did the Bills get fleeced when they traded for Stephon Diggs?
That's a different question. Look, he came in for 4 seasons, made 4 straight Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros. They made the playoffs all 4 seasons. I know they didn't reach the mountaintop, and that was the ultimate goal. They did end up paying him about $20 million extra over the 2 years he had left on his Minnesota deal. With the extension they gave him, they paid him about $20 million out, but obviously he was not going to play for $28 million over those 2 seasons. So he played for about $49 million over those 2 seasons. So no, I wouldn't say that. We do need to, I think, and Eagles fans should appreciate this. Like, if we only view winning the Super Bowl as a successful season, then, like, what are we really doing? Making a conference championship game, making deep playoff runs is a successful season, and the Bills did that every year.
I mean, what you just said, 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros. I mean, that's a success from the Bills' standpoint, getting that production. They didn't reach where they wanted to go
every year.
I mean, that is a hell of a player for the Buffalo Bills over 4 years. Yeah, what are we doing if that's not good enough?
Yeah,
I mean, we are getting to that point though, where I think more and more people are boy, if we don't win, it's a complete failure, everything. And I was a little surprised that, Mike Sando does his excellent piece every year, off-season piece, talks to a bunch of executives. His little snippet about the Eagles, I don't know if you saw it, Brad, was basically the people around the league think they've kind of lost their identity. You move on from Reddick, you bring in Barkley. That's not Eagles like. Maybe they get back to it with the offensive line in the draft. Do you think teams are overreactionary if they don't reach the goal and sometimes the goal is ridiculous and relentless?
What's funny is when I talk to a bunch of agents about this going down, I think those execs don't understand the Philadelphia Eagles. Trading a soon-to-be 30-year-old edge rusher who wants a new deal and then signing Bryce Huff to a cheaper deal who's 5 years younger is the most Howie Roseman thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
That part, that individual part.
Those guys don't understand him, which makes a lot of sense because he swindles all those guys every offseason. So, no, I don't agree with that at all. But, yeah, you do sometimes, I think you see, teams maybe chase it a little bit. I honestly think last offseason, I was kind of surprised they made that big of a push to keep both Darius Slay, and why am I blanking on his name now?
James Bradbury.
And James Bradbury. And again, they both had Pro Bowl years that year. They were both awesome. I get that. But I was surprised because that was, hey, this is a position with volatility where there's a drop off with a certain age. And this isn't just a hindsight analysis because they both struggled last year or got hurt, whatever. But I was a bit surprised they made that push. And so I think that was kind of like, hey, we're chasing this thing. We're so close. Let's just keep everyone here because we're gonna, win the Super Bowl next year. That to me was not Howie Roseman. This offseason has been vintage Howie Roseman, in my opinion.
Except for one thing. And I'm going to allow you to dictate to me how you evaluate running back salaries. Because there are different ways that you can evaluate them. Look at guaranteed money, years, everything else. I can make an argument that the Philadelphia Eagles made Saquon Barkley the second highest paid running back behind only Christian McCaffrey in the National Football League. Saquon Barkley's got some miles on that tread. Been around, carried it a lot, not 25, and they made him the second paid highest linebacker. If the Hassan Reddick trade is vintage Howie Roseman, how do you describe the Eagles committing to a pretty well-used, not overly used, but a pretty well-used running back, the second highest salary in the National Football League?
1,500 touches, Brad. 1,500 touches.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I do think it was an interesting tweet from Albert Breer. He was like, guys, this is the same team that signed DeMarco Murray away from the Cowboys. He's done this before, but that was obviously eons ago. I agree. That was not something I expected. I think you're probably getting at the full guarantee number is second. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is the second highest paid running back, but nevertheless, it is an interesting deal. And, I do think if I'm ever going to pay a running back, he needs to be the pass catcher that Saquon Barkley is and the pass blocker that Saquon Barkley is. And I think he is a top 5 back in both of those categories in the NFL. So, yeah, that one surprised me. I'm sure people in the building were even kind of surprised they did that. That's not what I would expect the Eagles to do. I would say this, though. This is my philosophy, maybe not theirs, but I would rather spend that money in free agency on that player than use a pick in the first 2 rounds at that position. I would rather chase premium positions in the draft and get the upside of if you hit on a tackle, an edge rusher, what have you, a receiver early on and get all that surplus value and then spend in free agency on a player of that caliber. And I know the outcomes have not been good for a lot of players making big money on the free agent market at running back, but I just think the opportunity cost of not using that pick on a premium spot is worse than spending that cash in free agency. But I don't know if they feel the same way about it. I was certainly surprised. I won't lie to you.
Well, plus it is a bad year running back in the draft, as you were mentioning. So that factors into it as well. Is it just as simple as if you're a contender, you can think about paying a running back? If you're not, like the Giants have been and have that for the entirety of Saquon Barkley's career, basically, it's probably not a good idea to pay a running back.
I think that's a big part of it. I also think, if you're going to have the worst offensive line in football, it doesn't matter if you have Saquon Barkley back there. He's not going to be all that productive. And I think he actually got better, too. Early in his career, he tried to bounce everything outside. He obviously is a premium athlete, a crazy athlete, but it was okay, you're racking up some negative carries because you're trying to bounce everything in this Jeff Stoutland system with a good run blocking scheme, with a good run game. And I think he's gotten better in that regard of the years. His negative carry rate has come down, even if we have fewer, 80-yard break-off runs because he's not 22 years old anymore. There's also way fewer of those negative runs. And now he's going to average 5+ yards a carry in this offense. So, yeah, it's interesting, but I agree. It should be the last position you spend on. And you could argue in Philly it kind of is.
I think you should determine how much you're going to spend on a running back based much more on what the hell else you got and what kind of offense you're going to run, whether than you are or aren't a contender. I could do it either way. If I am a contender, not a contender, explain why I'm going to spend at running back should be determined by the other pieces on the team. That's just for me if I were a GM. All right, speaking of GMs, how about that GM down in Dallas who said he's all in, pushing the chips into the middle of the table and then done squat-ta this offseason? What the hell are the Dallas Cowboys doing this offseason, Brad?
He's funny because they've been one of the lowest spenders in free agency for years.
Nobody ever recognizes that. It's like
no, because he does such a good job. Yeah. He does such a good job in the media, and we hear so much about the Cowboys, so we just assume or think they're spending. Look, Jerry Jones is running a business and is maximizing profit. I'm not going to say he doesn't care about winning, but he does not go all in. He does not spend aggressively each offseason to try to actually push them over the top. He is comfortable winning 10, 11 games, making the playoffs, winning a game or two, and then getting beat by a better team because that's probably the profit maximizing outcome for an NFL season. And that's what Jerry Jones cares about. He's going to put more money in his other business ventures that the return on that dollar is probably a lot better than paying an extra player. I'm not going to call it a con, but he has convinced people and says that every offseason, and it's not true in any way, shape, or form. Never has been.
Yeah. It might be a con, Brad.
There's a little con in there, John, if you let me. And this is something you'd know better than me. I should know, but I don't, so I'm going to defer to you. Paying his coaches. That's one place that the NFL can, if they really think they have. Ask the Denver Broncos about what they're paying Sean Payton. If you really believe that this is a difference maker and you can go to the well and you can pay him that much more, doesn't affect your salary cap. All it does is money out of the owner's pocket. Jimmy was the last coach he paid, and that's now 20-some-odd years ago. There's been no other coach that's been a top 5, Is McCarthy even in the top half of salary of NFL coaches?
I'm sure he is. And I will say this in his defense. Dan Quinn was making more than several head coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, he pays his assistants.
He'll pay assistants.
Yeah. But I hear you, though. And look, not extending McCarthy, I'm sure they're going to take a big swing. I wouldn't be surprised if they go get Belichick or something after this year, depending how things go. But no, that is the area where you probably can compete more because there isn't that cap like you mentioned, because they do have the excuse of look, I mean, CeeDee Lamb should make $30+ million a year. Micah Parsons probably next offseason, but he should be the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And Dak Prescott, I know they're playing games right now and negotiating via the media, which is Jerry Jones' favorite thing to do, but I still think they're going to pay him, before the offseason's over. I think he gets an extension too. So there's the excuse there. On the coaching side, no, they should be paying as much as everyone, and they do compete there, but I hear you.
Yeah. That was a better argument in the Dave Campo days. That's
also one to Jerry.
Yeah. Will McClay. Yeah. I think the Cowboys built through the draft. They do a good job in the draft. They do. I mean, Eagles fans don't want to hear it. I've been on this kick, Brad, because you used the term. We all use it. You just used it all in. We use it all the time. Most recently, the best example would be Les Snead and Eptem picks and the T-shirt. And here in Philadelphia, we got a team. Once they signed Saquon Barkley, they're all in. They're a contender there. So you got to bring Reddick back. What does all in mean to you? Because nobody goes on. Those Rams teams, they were playing a bunch of young defensive backs. You can't just have a star at every position. What does all in mean to Brad Spielberg?
I do think the 2021 Rams were about as good of an example as you were going to get. I mean, they were spending about $100 million more than that year's salary cap. It was like 288 versus 188 in that year. They won the Super Bowl. Obviously, trading multiple first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, all those guys. Like you said, you still can't have every single position be loaded up. And Les Snead, it's funny. The F them picks thing is hilarious because Les Snead actually trades down as much as any GM in the entire history of the National Football League.
Picks,
And they make 8+ picks every single year. They just haven't had a first-round pick since Jared Goff in 2016. So you have to balance it. But they're about as close as it gets. To me, it is aggressive cash spending. And obviously, that also it depends on like when signing bonuses are hitting your book. So it's not always that clean. But aggressive cash spending and then trading premium draft capital. Like right now, the Cleveland Browns are all in. They haven't made a first-round pick in a couple years. They trade for Jerry Jeudy after trading for Elijah Moore last year. You make the Deshaun Watson trade. You're signing Zadarius Smith and all these like you're just nonstop adding. You're building out depth. You're like they're pretty much all in. But yeah, it gets used way too often. Rarely do teams actually go all in this league.
Understood. So if you had a second level of all in, would the Eagles be in that?
Yeah, last year they were probably, you could argue, the most, just because they knew they had Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox probably in their last seasons. Maybe Brandon Graham, obviously, he's coming back. But yeah, they're in the second tier. Miami's in that second tier for sure. They've been kind of in that second tier for a little bit now. So yeah, I would throw the Eagles in there as well.
Quarterbacks. We got to talk about quarterbacks at the top of the draft because it's so interesting. There's so many teams that have put themselves in a corner, most notably Denver, probably in Minnesota. In my estimation, some bad GMing because they have to go get a quarterback, and you never want to be in that position, I think, where you have to go get a quarterback. Already Kwesi's kind of overpaid for that second first-round pick. Now he's going to have to overpay again to get up higher to get a quarterback. How do you see the quarterback landscape shifting out with these quarterback desperate teams?
Yeah, I mean, the Kwesi, the Vikings move is kind of the most similar to the double trade up for Carson Wentz, that I can recall. Obviously not veteran players involved there, but I almost think that Arizona or the Chargers told Minnesota they want another first. Like, I don't think Kwesi would make that trade, which by, advanced charts is the Vikings giving up some capital. And I know that he looks at every chart and is obviously the analytic GM, as we all know. And I say that just because the Jameson Williams trade and other trades they've made have been more like beneficial to the Vikings on the advanced charts that us nerds look at. And maybe he loses, quote unquote, per Jimmy Johnson, which Jimmy Johnson does control the marketplace. But like they clearly are looking at other resources on those same advanced charts. This trade was a loss, but I think it's because they are hell bent on going to 4 or 5. I still think it's going to be JJ McCarthy, the guy that's there. I think it's going to go Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and then the Vikings trade up and get JJ McCarthy at 4 or 5.
So you mentioned some of the other draft value charts that people use. Jimmy's is the most famous, the most long-standing, and you still think the number one used by teams in the National Football League, because there are others. Do you know?
Brad's got one. I look at Brad's. So
do you know of any team that values yours above and beyond Jimmy Johnson's?
I can tell you for a fact, like you have to have a near, zero-sum trade on the Jimmy Johnson chart to get a deal done. Like that is what teams, and I had some teams just explicitly tell me, like that we don't look at anything else. We just know that Jimmy Johnson is what controls the marketplace. So that's just all we look at. So that is still, and I've, this is my opinion. I've back tested this and ran through all the values with all the picks and, and determined that Jimmy Johnson still is the closest to zero sum. It is the chart they use. But what other teams are doing now is they'll game away where it's neutral on Jimmy Johnson, but on those advanced charts, whether it's getting more late round picks or getting future picks that they don't devalue quite as much, or doing pick swaps instead of just, giving up only picks, you get one back in return. Stuff like that is all the things that we like on those advanced charts. And like I said, Minnesota, Baltimore, the organizations that I've not talked to either one, but the organizations that I know use their analytics department and rely on those people, Philadelphia certainly included as well. They are teams that tend to, the trades look better on our charts, and I'm not surprised by that.
Fair enough. I saw you retweet this just a couple of minutes ago before you came on here, and I haven't had a chance to read Andrew Marchand's article that the NFL Network is doing some dicing and slicing
James Palmer, our buddy.
Palmer,
yeah, they bought him. Yeah.
Will Selva and Andrew Siciliano. Your comment was, not sure how any network is better without Siciliano. You know what? I sat next to him once at a wedding. Didn't know him from Adam, but a fellow friend of both of ours just happened to be getting married. And he said, let me throw Jody and Andrew sitting together. I had never met the guy before. Had a great time drinking with him all night long. And I think he's phenomenal at what he does. Why the hell does NFL Network need to be cutting salaries?
They need that money, Brad. They need that money.
It's crazy. I guess ESPN's going to take them over at some point. So maybe they're like already preparing for merging talent. I'll just say this, and James is great too. Will's awesome too. I've never met James or Will. I'm not saying this just because I have met, and we're not buddies. I've met him a couple times in passing, and he's hosted when I've gone on NFL Network. But Andrew Siciliano, off the air and stuff, he knows ball. The guy knows football at an extremely high level. He is not just a host. I came on for a free agency thing, and he was pulling free agency situations from multiple years prior, just off the top of his head. But he is also a great guy. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I thought he was great on Red Zone. I really don't know how a network would think that they shouldn't do all they can to keep him around. He's awesome.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think you're right 100%. I think, when you sort of mesh the two together, and probably ESPN is going to take over more and more, and then you don't have just room and you have talents and people got to go. It's unfortunate. And obviously the NFL, I say that facetiously, they don't need to cut anybody, but it's always a shame. Good for you, though. You are going in a positive direction. Great job at Pro Football Focus, obviously, for years over the cap. Now going to be the Director of Football Administration for Grand Central Sports Management. Can't say congratulations enough. I hope you can still come on the show. I don't know how your new job will affect that, but Jody and I are going to ask, so just, be prepared for that, Brett.
Well, thank you a ton. Very, very kind of you. Unfortunately, not going to be a big part of what I'm doing. So we'll try maybe once in a while. But I'm not going to be making too many appearances.
That's what I figured. I was disappointed.
Yeah. But thank you guys a ton.
You're bagging us. Just go ahead and say it. You're bagging us going forward. We're out.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. Lose my number, Jody.
We will walk that fine line and get you on once every blue moon, but not over ask, because we know we're not going to get the results that we want. But you've been great coming on our show, on my CBS shows. I want to thank you for that. Wish you nothing but the best with the new venture. Thanks much. Enjoy your new gig.
Thank you guys a ton. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad Spielberger, formerly of PFF, and now director.
He's still there. He's still got one more week.
A week to go. We got him in on his last week. I just thought it'd be a good week to get him on because we're out before I thought he was going to be. See, I didn't know he's getting a new gig. I said he'll be nuts the week before the draft. We'll never get him on, so we better go a couple weeks in advance. Little did I know we're going to get to tell everybody that he's got a new gig. All right, McMullen, McDonald coming back. We got to put a bow on this show.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
McMullen and McDonald, Mac guys, last couple of seconds here on Birds 365. For those of you who streamed in, thank you very much. Hit the like button on the way out. Do us a solid. Help us with the algorithm. You want to be tuned tomorrow because tomorrow is the first day of year 4 of Birds 365. We debuted on April 5th of 2021. So we will officially log off at the end of the show here today. 3 full years of Birds 365. Year 4 begins tomorrow. Unless I get a call from the powers that be, say I'm fired this afternoon. I plan on being here with my partner, Johnny Mac, tomorrow to start year 4 of Birds 365. So you want to be specifically here tomorrow. We should have a good show. One more quickie before we get out the door, John. I asked Brad Spielberger about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and all in, and Jerry likes to toss that phrase around, even though his moves are completely to the, or lack thereof, are completely to the contrary. And oh, by the way, I'll give you one guy. He's not going to be mad at McDonald or McMullen for taking a shot and saying he's not all in or whatever. The guy that he's most mad at, the mayor of Dallas. Did you see what the mayor of Dallas put out there on social media yesterday?
I did not.
Welcome home, Dallas Texans. That the Kansas City Chiefs, because they don't have a stadium deal, would be invited back to the Cotton Bowl to add a second NFL team in Big D. Oh, Jerry's not going to be happy about that. He's got to share the city with Andy Reid.
It was interesting. Brad brought up that maybe he's more about making money. I just checked. He's at 13.9 billion net worth. I think a lot of people don't realize, Jerry Jones, like all these new stadiums, his company runs most of them. Legacy, it's something Legacy. I'd have to look it up, but so like SoFi Stadium, when that opened, like he's got a piece of that.
Yeah,
like he makes money on. Brad's right. He's more at this stage a businessman than trying to win and trying to, which is fine, but probably not great for the fans of Dallas.
And
so yeah, maybe the Dallas mayor's a little bit more savvy.
Yeah.
And
between you and I, this is just I've never met Jerry Jones. I've never had him on as a guest. I've just watched him on interviews just like everybody else. I think it's killing him. I think he wants to win so badly. He just can't figure it out. As great a businessman as he is, he's a marginal at best football guy. I don't think it comes from, I got to study. I got to be on top. I think he's dedicated to winning at football. I think his ego is dedicated to winning at football. I just don't think he's that good at it, plain and simple.
Yeah, and it's called Legends Hospitality, and it's a joint bird
with the Yankees, right?
joint venture with the Yankees, who also have gone in a different direction since George Steinbrenner passed away. Levi Stadium, Indianapolis Speedway, IndyCar, Nissan Stadium, Angel Stadium, Golden One Center, SoFi, Allegiant, Prudential Center, Notre Dame, Rose Bowl, Oklahoma, Dallas, Buffalo. Yeah, it is a monster of a company. And I mean, it's interesting because as we talked about it, I know we got to go. We're going over. He pays his assistants. He shoestrings some stuff. He doesn't shoestring other stuff. But when it comes to building a football team, they're all draft. They don't do and they've been all draft for a decade. It's not working. I mean, you got to do both. They're a very good drafting team. Don't get me wrong. They've been one of the top 5 drafting teams for a while now. But you got to do both.
Right.
You got to supplement that.
Striking the balance is the key to winning it, getting a football championship. And Jerry just hasn't been very good at striking that balance. All right. For those of you who need to know, in our first show of year number 4, we will have our usual Friday guy, Paul Domwich, is going to be with us early. And then I said, we need to get a guy who comes on often. We got to get an Eagle guy and an Eagle guy who comes on often with us. And we decided Chris Franklin and his birds. You got to text Franklin and tell him he's got to do it outside. Is it going to rain again tomorrow?
It's too cold. It's
going to rain again for the
By the way, WrestleMania kicks off tonight for those of you going to WWE World down at the Convention Center. Friday night SmackDown, Saturday NXT, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2 on Sunday, Monday Night Raw. All in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center. And it's going to be too cold, Jody. It's going to be too cold.
It's going to be a little chilly, but will it stop raining? Are they going to have to put the big can?
It's finally stopped raining. I believe the weather forecast is good, at least when it comes to rain.
No rain. Hopefully that's the case. Tell Franklin he's got to be outside tomorrow. We don't care how cold it is. That's the key to Chris Franklin.
By the way, I'm missing the WrestleMania media junket for our 4th year 4, start of year 4.
Oh, what time does it start tomorrow?
8:30. I've been
8:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I'm going to SmackDown though at night, so in the Hall of Fame.
Enjoy SmackDown. We will be back tomorrow with the start of year 4 here on Birds 365, which comes up in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.